and welcome to the M.B.Om podcast, where you'll learn to master the business of yoga. M.B.Om is a proud part of the Wander Barn Podcast Network, and I'm your host, Amanda Kingsmith. I'm a 500-hour registered yoga teacher, a yoga business coach, and a total business geek. Here at M.B.Om, you'll learn everything you need to know to create a sustainable yoga business by learning from myself and guests from around the world about how they built their yoga businesses, and about how you too can become a successful yoga teacher, studio owner, and much more. All right, let's dive in. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Mastering the Business of Yoga. I am really excited that you're joining me for today's episode of the show. And I'm especially excited to be here for today's episode of the show because today is the final episode of this season. And this is a special solo episode where I've got some news for you. I've got some updates for you. I'm talking through some stuff and I'm excited to just dive in and get into it. So over the last year, as we've switched to this season model that we've been doing, I've liked to do a closing episode, kind of an opening episode of the season and a closing episode of this season. And this season is very much feeling like it needs a closing episode because this is actually going to be the only season of the podcast this year because I am currently pregnant and expecting another baby girl pretty quick here. So if you follow me personally, then this is probably not new news to you. This is old news. We announced many, many months ago that this was happening, but I haven't really talked about it on M.B.Om social media or on the podcast much, if any at all. So for many of you listening, this might be some brand new information to you. And if so, here it is. I'm pregnant, having another baby girl. Really excited to welcome another family member. In early June is when she's due. So she'll be here, end of May or early June, just depending on when she decides to arrive. And I'm really excited for this next chapter of life, but I'm also preparing a little bit differently this time around for my maternity leave and for motherhood and with my business. And so I wanted to do a little episode to wrap up this season and talk about how I'm prepping for maternity leave this time around versus last time around. And so if you guys remember, my first daughter was born at the beginning of 2022. So she's just a little over 2 now. And I did a couple of episodes with Jen Corley and Kelly Smith talking about maternity leaves and how they prepared as, contractors, full-time workers, entrepreneurs, how they planned with their businesses, all this type of thing. And doing these episodes was so helpful for me. And hopefully it was also helpful for some of you mama entrepreneurs out there as well, just to figure out how to do these things. And I loved the way that I did things last time, but I'm also looking at the change in family structure from having, going from 0 babies to 1 baby to going from 1 child already to 2 children. And one of the things that I really felt last time was just a lot of exhaustion and overwhelm in terms of trying to balance both motherhood and work. And I know so many of us do it and we just dig deep and we do the thing and we show up in the best capacity that we can for both our clients and our businesses and our students, as well as our children. And this time I've decided to just take a little bit of a larger break. So I wanted to walk you through what that's going to kind of look like for me, what I'm planning, and then we'll talk about, what's to come ahead for M.B.Om and the podcast. And for those of you that listen, what you can kind of expect down the road. So to start with, I wanted to talk a little bit about what things looked like for me when I went on maternity leave last time and how I prepared. And how I did that was a lot of backlogging. I spent a lot of time in the later stages of my pregnancy recording podcast episodes that I was letting guests know wouldn't go out for many, many months. So I spent a lot of time recording episodes. And then on top of that, it wasn't just recording them, it was also connecting with potential advertisers and sponsors and getting all of that organized for, months out and that type of thing. And recording intros and getting everything ready so that I could go offline, but I could have both the person who does my production and my assistant basically execute everything. So writing descriptions, all of that type of stuff. And what I wanted was for it to be really, really fluid and seamless when I went offline. And thanks to, I guess, my organization and planning ahead of time, and then also just having amazing people that I work with who are able to execute on my behalf, we were actually able to do this. And so I was able to step offline and spend time with my daughter and my baby and heal postpartum and all that type of stuff. And there was really not much that I needed to do for those first couple of months while I was offline. But here's the thing. I had only planned for about 3 or 4 months of content. So I think I had February, March, and April planned, and then I didn't have anything for May. And it was a little bit like, I'm not really sure what this will look like. And, if I'll take more time off or we'll take a pause from the podcast. And I decided to just keep things going. And so when my daughter was about 3 months old, maybe closer to 4 months, I went back to recording, and it was really amazing after those few months offline to go back to doing something that I loved. But it was also really hard because she was just starting to become, less of a newborn and more of a baby. And I had to coordinate around nap schedules and, figuring out good times to organize podcast interviews with guests, et cetera, et cetera. And so, I basically went back to work after 3 or 4 months of being offline, just in a very, very small capacity. I still had a ton of help and stuff like that. But I did feel a pressure of like, hey, I don't have enough podcast episodes. And so this is what I needed to do. And basically I did that for the rest of 2022, and the start of 2023 happened. So last year, and I just felt very tired and very overwhelmed. My daughter was almost 1, and I was back to work probably about 15 to 20 hours a week without having nearly that much childcare. So I was working a ton during naps and a ton after bedtime. And I just felt like this is not sustainable. I need to slow down a little bit. And that's when I decided, why don't I try shifting to seasons? And so if you guys have been following along over the last year, then that's when we did the shift to seasons. And I was really nervous to make that shift. It's always really scary to kind of change a big thing about your business, but I love that shift that we made. I feel like it really allowed me to go all in with the episodes that I was doing and really be particular about guests. And instead of feeling like, oh, I really need a podcast episode for next week, or, I only have 3 more backlogged, I really need to find a guest. I was being really particular about who I invited on the show and what topics we talked about, and really picky and choosy because it's like, hey, this season only has, 12, 13 episodes. So we're going to be really particular about what we're going to talk about. And I really enjoyed that. And we did some cool stuff in 2023 where we did from the archives, which is cool if you've had a podcast for as long as M.B.Om has been around. I mean, M.B.Om launched at the beginning of 2016. So we have literally hundreds of episodes, and so many of them are evergreen. And it's cool, I think, for you guys to hear episodes that are so deep down in the archives that you might never find them, that are really relevant to your business. So I thought it was great to be able to have consistent content, but only have some be new and some be kind of older content that we were sharing. And so decided to kind of execute that way for 2023. And then, the end of 2023 happened. And actually, a fun fact that I'll share with you is that the same day that I pressed publish on my book on Amazon, so I hit publish on my book and put it out into the world, which was scary and exciting. And then later that day, I took a pregnancy test and it came out positive. So that was a pretty big day for me. Both published a book and found out I was pregnant with this second baby that's going to be arriving here shortly. And I was like, okay, things are changing again. So I spent a lot of time at the end of 2023 going back and forth about, do I want to spend early 2024 both recording and executing on this season that we're just finishing up now, as well as also backlogging another season for you guys? do I want to do from the archives episodes, or do I just want to take a big pause? And this was a really back and forth decision for me. It was a decision that I spent a lot of time with, and that I, it's hard to know what's like the right decision, right? Quote unquote, right. There's not really right or wrong in these cases, but just deciding what's going to be best. And ultimately what I decided is that I didn't want to spend my pregnancy just completely in front of a computer. I want, balance with spending time with my daughter. And I also want to be able to take care of myself physically, mentally, emotionally. And I also, want to be able to step fully offline. And in order to do that, I've decided that we're going to take a full break. So there's going to be no content coming out on M.B.Om from now until at least the end of the year. So I know that that is a lot. I know that that's a big announcement, and I know that that's a big change. But I do feel like this is what's going to be best for me as I step into this transition of mothering not one, but two babies, having a newborn and a toddler, so that I can fully focus on them. And then, see how I'm doing kind of at the end of 2024 to see what 2025 looks like. So I'm sure there will be an update at some point down the road, but we're taking a big break. That's what things are going to look like going forward. And so with that big news out there, why don't we take a quick little break and talk about Offering Tree? If you've listened to the podcast for a while, then you know all about Offering Tree. And if you're new here, then I would like to introduce you to the wellness business management software created for folks just like you. Yoga enthusiasts and entrepreneurial spirits who are juggling classes, clients, and cash flow. Does that sound familiar? Because it sounds familiar to me. And Offering Tree is really the support your wellness business always needed but never had. With Offering Tree, bid farewell to the chaos of business management. Their software is like having a personal assistant always by your side, attracting yogis to your mat, booking them into classes, and ensuring they return. It's not just seamless, it's tailored to your needs. It's not just easy for your customers, it empowers you to build a successful, sustainable business. And it's not just optimized for your growth, it's designed to give you peace of mind. Offering Tree understands the challenges of the solopreneur journey, but you're not alone. Offering Tree is more than just software. It's also your community, your support system, and your compass to success. You can get real-time assistance from real humans, engage in webinars, and participate in workshops that truly make a difference. With user-friendly templates and industry-specific reporting, you can focus on what truly matters, spreading wellness and positivity to your students. If you're ready to simplify your life and empower your business, you can sign up for a free trial or book a demo today. Let Offering Tree be the root of your success. Head on over to offeringtree.com/MBOm to get started today. All right, now back to the show. All right, so far this episode, I have told you that I am pretty pregnant, expecting another baby girl in the springtime in early June. Going to be heading offline pretty quick here as this episode comes out, and spending some time with my family and my daughter and doing some postpartum prep and all of that. And I'm feeling really good about maternity leave because I'm not panicked and stressing about all the things that I need to prepare for my business. I'm feeling really easeful with this decision to take a big break with my business. And I wasn't really sure how I'd feel about this because last time the idea of doing this really, really terrified me. So when I was pregnant with my toddler, I was trying to decide what I would do. And a lot of fears came up for me in terms of, how long I've spent working on my business and how long I've spent cultivating an audience and building all of that. And I didn't want to just stop releasing podcast episodes or stop releasing social media content or newsletters and just kind of become forgotten, because as much as we pay attention to things, when things kind of stop or pause, sometimes we just find other things. And so there was a lot of sort of uncertainty and fear for me, and I wasn't sure what motherhood would be like or what all that would look like. And so, like I mentioned before, I backlogged so much so that I could have this seamless maternity leave. And I do feel like I did that quite well. And I don't regret that in any way. But I do really feel like when I sat down and thought about how I wanted to do this differently this time, I thought I don't want to spend so much time backlogging episodes right up to the point of giving birth. And I don't want to have to feel like I need to check and make sure everything went out and I need to be invoicing. And I just want to have a pretty big break. And so I'm excited to see what comes from this break. And this time around, I feel less fear about a break. And I feel comfortable with the fact that some of you listening here will probably find other podcasts to listen to. And there are so many amazing yoga business podcasts out there for you guys. And so I'm excited for that. And I'm excited for the transition and to see, how that goes and whatnot. And I'm also excited to keep you guys posted on what's next. And I honestly don't know what that looks like. So before I talked a little bit about Offering Tree, I said I'll probably check in at the end of 2024 and we'll see what 2025 looks like. By the end of 2024, my baby will be about 6 months old. And I have no idea if I'm going to feel ready to come back to work, ready to start recording podcast episodes again, or if I'm going to want to take more time offline. As you guys know, I'm Canadian. And so it's really common to take like 12 to 18 months of a full maternity leave. And I know that's so different for the Americans out there and so different even from where I am located in Mexico. A lot of people in Mexico get 3 months off and that's considered really, really good. So there's always expectations and standards that are really different with this stuff too. And I feel like I'm just going into it really open-minded. I know I'm going to take the rest of the year off and then just see where things take me and how I'm feeling. And I will obviously keep you guys in the loop. And so a couple of things that I wanted to, just chat about before we wrap up this episode and wrap up this season and wrap up this year, which is crazy to be saying so early on in the year. I know we're only a few months in and it's crazy to think about, the end of 2024 already. But, we have a lot of great content. If you haven't listened to all the episodes of the show, there's so much stuff to go back through. And so I wanted to point you in the direction of how you can find episodes easily, especially around the topics that you're looking for. So if you head on over to my website, it's MBOmyoga.com, and you can go to podcast, and there's a bunch of different topics. So we've organized the episodes into topics. There's teaching online. There's stuff for new yoga teachers. So if you're brand new to teaching, there's stuff for advanced yoga teachers. So if you've been teaching for a couple of years, there's stuff for studio owners. We've got a general business topic. We've got a niching topic. We've got personal development and then marketing and branding. So whichever topic is kind of aligned for you, you can click on it and then it's got a bunch of episodes that it recommends. And so then you know what the episodes are called or what the guest's name is, and you can go from there. The other thing you can do on my website is up at the top menu bar, there's a little magnifying glass, it looks like, in the corner, and you can actually search. So you could search for any topic that you're looking for. And if you're looking for a topic, we probably have a podcast episode on it because there's literally so many podcast episodes at this point. There's hundreds and hundreds of them. And so this would be a great way to kind of go back through some older episodes if you're looking for some specific assistance in your business. I also just wanted to chat about this season because this season's been really wonderful. We had some amazing guests and some really amazing topics. And if you haven't listened to them all, I would definitely go back and listen to them. We kicked off 2024 with goal setting and manifestation, which is not just for the beginning of the year. You can do this at any point. So you could do this for Q2, Q3, Q4, any type of like mid-year review that you're doing in your business. Or if you're just brand new to teaching, then maybe you just want to sit down and do some goal setting and manifestation. We did a couple episodes on yoga studio ownership, which was really fun. So I talked with Alexandra Charles, who's based in the US. She talks about opening a studio right before the pandemic and how she made it through that, which is incredible. And then also had Mary Bug on the podcast, and she talks about growing a studio in Bali, which is really cool. And she's not from Indonesia. She's not from Bali. And so talks about running a business in a foreign country, which I thought was really, really neat. We also had Kaya Minlin, who's one of my absolute favorite people in the world, on the podcast talking about your Dharma. This is such a deep episode, so much great stuff here. We talked about becoming a health coach, which I know is a little bit of a out there kind of topic, maybe not relevant to everyone, but I think it's really interesting to kind of think about niching and expanding your business in this way. And I think that that's a really awesome opportunity for those of you who are interested in health and wellness. We talked about why yoga photos are an important part of your yoga brand. There's a couple episodes on writing books. We talked with Brett Larkin, who just released a book, and she did it through traditional publishing. And then I also released a podcast episode on how I self-published a book. And then we also had Amy Apoliti talking about the updates that she's made to her book. So lots of different angles from authors and around writing a book. So maybe there's something in the air for 2024. I don't know if anyone's feeling the bug on writing a book. And then we also had podcast episodes on self-care, a little bit of a unique take on that one with my dear friend Renee Claire. We talked about specializing in yoga, and we also had an episode on retreats. So a lot of variety in this season. So if you haven't gone and listened to them all, like I said, definitely would recommend going and checking them out. And then, of course, checking out some older episodes. And then the final thing I wanted to talk about was just the other aspects of my business, since the podcast is not the only thing that I do. So at the moment, I'm currently winding down with my one-on-one clients, and I really didn't take on anyone new this year in 2024. And I was very open with the people that I am working with about using up packages, et cetera, before, early to mid-May at the very latest. And so currently just wrapping up packages with one-on-one clients that I'm working with, currently wrapping up teacher trainings that I'm doing. I have, my last kind of main teacher training is this month, and then early next month in May, I'll be, wrapping up teaching the business of yoga for at least 6 months and maybe longer. Like I said, we'll see how it goes. And so for anyone who is maybe wanting to work together, there is an application or a contact form on my website. You can send it through to my email, and we're going to set up a form so that you can apply to work with me. And once I'm getting back into working with clients, whenever that is, I can reach out to you. But ultimately, if you need a business coach in the next 6 months, I am not your gal, but there's so many amazing people who can help you. And I featured so many of them on the show. So really grateful that the show can also be a resource for you guys to find other people that you want to work with. And yeah, it's like such an interesting time in life as I wind down this one aspect of what I'm doing, winding down my business in a certain way, while not fully shutting it down by any means or closing any doors. It's like closing a little bit of a chapter for right now. And then also, making space to welcome this new chapter of becoming a family of 4 and having a newborn again and going through birth and postpartum and all that type of thing and being a mom of 2. So I'm really excited to see what that looks like. And if you guys want to support me while I'm on maternity leave, while I'm offline, you can still purchase my book. My book is on my website. You can head on over to mbomyoga.com/book. I would be super grateful for any purchases that you make of that, even if it's for yourself or for a friend. It's been really incredible over the last couple of months, the last 6 months that it's been out, to just experience the people who have read it and shared feedback with me and all of that good stuff. So once again, that's mbomyoga.com/book if you want to check that out. And please feel free to email me at any time. I will be checking email as I can once baby is born, but I'll be online until kind of beginning to mid-May and that type of thing. So would love to hear from you if there's anything that you want to say or share, any of that. So that's info@mbomyoga.com. And I just wanted to thank you so much for listening to this season of the show, for listening to as many episodes of the show as you've listened to over the years. And I'm excited to see what comes next. So I will keep you guys posted, and you can stay tuned for more information coming soon. But for now, we are wrapping up. We are heading offline. I'm going into my maternity leave cave, and I will look forward to seeing you guys whenever I get back from that. Thank you so much for all your support. Thank you to Offering Tree for sponsoring this season of the show. You guys, seriously, please go give them some love. It's offeringtree.com/MBOm. Go check them out on social media, all that good stuff. All right, that's all from me today. I will see you guys when I see you. Okay, bye for now. Thank you so much for tuning in for this episode of the podcast. To find links, notes, resources, and everything mentioned in today and all episodes of the show, you can head on over to MBOmyoga.com. You can find the podcast and myself on Facebook and social media at Mastering the Business of Yoga. And I would love for you to join the private Facebook community, Yoga Business Badasses. If you have any questions, comments, or feedback, please make sure you reach out to me at info@mbomyoga.com. And last of all, if you enjoyed this episode of the show, please make sure you hit subscribe and leave a review for the podcast. It would mean the world. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll see you next week. Namaste.